What made you wish Twilight had never been written? Back in 2008, I was 17 and living in this tiny town in Washington called Forks. Yeah, that Forks. Before Twilight came out, we had about 3,000 people, one decent coffee shop, and everyone knew each other's business. It was boring but peaceful. Then Stephenie Meyer's books exploded, and suddenly our little town was famous for being where Edward and Bella fell in love. At first, my mom was excited. She worked at the local diner and they started selling Bella burgers and Edward's Eternal Eggs. Business was booming. But then the tourists started showing up. Not just a few here and there, but busloads of screaming teenage girls and grown women acting like teenagers. They'd walk down our street taking photos of random houses, asking locals where the Cullen Mansion was. The thing is, there was no Cullen Mansion. It was all made up. My best friend Claire had long black hair and was really short, so these fans kept saying she looked exactly like Alice Cullen. At first, she thought it was funny, but then it got weird. Groups of tourists would literally follow her around town, begging for selfies and asking her to act like Alice. One day after school, Claire was walking to her car when this group of 30-something women surrounded her. They kept shoving phones in her face, demanding she pose and say Alice's catchphrases. When Claire told them she just wanted to go home, they got nasty. "You're so rude and ungrateful," one of them yelled. "We traveled all the way here just to meet you." Claire tried to explain she wasn't actually Alice, just a regular high school student, but they wouldn't listen. That night, someone posted her photo on some Twilight fan forum with her full name, calling her a stuck-up fake Alice who hates her fans. The comments were brutal. People were calling her ugly, saying she should be grateful for the attention, even making threats. Claire stopped going to school for a week because she was getting recognized on the street. Her mom had to threaten legal action to get the posts taken down. But the worst part was what happened to my brother Jake's truck. He drove this old red Chevy that looked similar to Bella's truck from the movies. One morning we woke up and found it covered in silver spray paint. Someone had written, "Edward was here," in huge letters across both sides. Jake worked at the lumber mill after school to help pay for gas and insurance. The truck was all he had to get to work, and we couldn't afford to fix it right away. He missed 2 weeks of shifts because our town didn't have public transportation. Our family was already struggling financially, and losing those paychecks really hurt. The police said they couldn't do anything because they had no evidence who did it, but we all knew it was tourists who thought vandalizing our property was somehow related to their Twilight fantasy. Things got even worse when fans started breaking into people's backyards to take authentic vampire selfies. Mrs. Henderson next door came home to find strangers in her garden, posing dramatically against her apple tree because it looked just like the book. They trampled her flowers and left garbage everywhere. Crime rates went up because people were stealing anything that might be Twilight memorabilia. Someone broke into the high school and stole a bunch of old wooden chairs because they thought they looked like something from the cafeteria scenes. The final straw came when I was walking home from my job at the grocery store. This car full of tourists pulled up next to me and started yelling, asking if I knew where they could find real vampires. When I ignored them, they followed me for 6 blocks, honking and screaming out their windows. I ran the last 2 blocks home and locked all our doors. My mom called the police, but they said unless the tourists actually threatened me, there wasn't much they could do. That night I realized I genuinely hated Twilight. Not just the books or movies, but what they turned my home into. Our quiet little town became this weird theme park where tourists felt entitled to treat us like we were characters in their fantasy, instead of real people trying to live our lives. My family ended up moving to Oregon the summer before my senior year. We couldn't handle the constant invasion of privacy and the way our neighbors were being harassed. Claire's family moved too, to a town where nobody had ever heard of Alice Cullen. 5 years later, the hype finally died down, but the damage was done. Half the local businesses that changed their whole identity around Twilight went under when the tourists stopped coming. The town never recovered economically.